Christian Parenting.
Today's episode is dedicated to the possible homeschool parents who think, I don't know if I can do this. I don't think I'm smart enough. It's also dedicated to those of you that are homeschooling and are questioning what you're doing. Is it going to be successful? I don't think that I can actually do this. I don't know higher math and my child is 5, but of course I need to know trigonometry by tomorrow in order to be able to educate them in that in, 10, 11, 12 years. This episode is also dedicated to all of those bots or just people who hide behind usernames on the internet that just like to hate on homeschooling and just like to be negative. If you ever come across those, I would highly encourage you, don't engage. And if you want to engage, maybe just drop this podcast episode. You can send them to me. I'll take care of them for you. I can handle the hate or whatever negative comments that they want to make. But really for those people, they just don't want to open their eyes. They don't want to think about anything differently. And so therefore, I just let it go. I just have to just ignore it. So I'm encouraging you to as well. But you are either a parent that's thinking about homeschooling, maybe in the next month, pulling your kids out. But most likely if you're thinking about it, it's possibly next year after the school year is done, if you're pulling them out of school, or maybe it's years down the road because you have little ones, or maybe you are homeschooling and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. Today's episode is not going to be, I don't want it to be a negative episode at all. I want to point out some holes and some flaws in a school and education system so that then you can say, okay, what can I do that's different? And how can I think about education differently? And if you are thinking about education differently, this episode hopefully will kind of give you a little bit of a boost and say, okay, we are on the right track and home education is definitely the solution for our family and we just need to keep at it. And you are the exact right person to be leading and guiding the home education of your children. So let's get into it now. Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast. I am Leigh Nguyen, a mom who never intended to homeschool. But all these years later, I couldn't imagine a better life for my family. My hope is that I may offer you the encouragement I so desperately needed to begin and continue through all the years of home education. I am so glad you're listening to this episode, so let's get into today's topic. Homeschooling and parenting in general is busy, and sometimes chaos can happen before your coffee finishes brewing or the toast pops out of the toaster. That's why our friends at Christian Parenting created Morning Minute. It is a concise, scripture-rooted daily email for busy parents. It's a quick pause at the start of your day. Each weekday morning, you'll get one verse to strengthen your spirit, one parenting insight grounded in Christ-like wisdom, one short action item to guide your heart and your kids, and one resource to help you go deeper. It takes just 3 minutes to read, but the encouragement lasts all day and it's free. Don't miss out. You can subscribe now at morningminute.org to get this quick encouragement in your inbox every weekday. Again, that's morningminute.org. The link is also in the show notes. I hope that you go ahead and join that list and get that encouragement that you need. Now let's get into this episode. And I want you to ask yourself this question and answer it honestly. If you need to pause this episode and write it down or even just stop to actually think about it. But here's the question. Ask yourself, am I smart enough to homeschool my children? Whether that is one child, that is 3, that is 5, that is 15, 25. I don't know if anybody has 25 kids, but it's just think about your kids and say to yourself, am I smart enough to homeschool or home educate your kids? Now, smart should be seen as a relative term, in my opinion, but our society equals smart with school. In other words, did you get A's in school, or did you receive certain degrees? Do you have certain certifications, certain accreditations? You will hear this when it comes to homeschool. If you're thinking about homeschooling, you will hear from people, well, don't you need a degree, a teaching degree to do that? Or you tell people that you are homeschooling and they just say, well, you have your degree, right? And they say it in a way that's like a passive aggressive kind of way. They're not really asking you a question, but sometimes they really are genuinely curious. Like, well, do you? You can tell in the tone of their voice and the inflection that they give, whether they really are curious or they're looking down down on that decision. But in general, when we say that somebody is smart, oh, that's a smart person in that area, or that's a smart doctor, or smart lawyer, or whatever it is, could have been the kid that was valedictorian of your high school class. They equate that with school. And school, the main focus, if you really break it down, is memorizing information, regurgitating that information and facts, and following directions. That's how you get A's, being a good student. And the more A's you have, the smarter that it appears you look. Now, again, I'm not trying to knock the school system. I'm just kind of poking some holes in some things because I want you to rethink what smart is and rethink home education. I saw maybe it was on Twitter, what do you call it, Twitter or X, and someone reposted it on their Facebook, somebody that I follow. And it was basically saying, I don't have it right in front of me right now, but basically saying, school is having kids, again, memorize and regurgitate this information, all these facts, when in your pocket, you can pull out a little mini computer and basically AI is doing that for you. You have a question about something, you can ask that question to AI, and this is going to continue to grow. We can get into some of the talk about thoughts and everything on that, but it just is a fact that it's out there. And it is being used by the younger generation, and it's going to be used more and more. Like, what about some other skills that we could be teaching our children? It's kind of like, think about maybe, I don't know if this is a good example, but let's think about before washing machines. And washing machines come out. Now, we know when new inventions and things come out, they're very expensive, and they can take a little while for people to adapt and adopt it. And it's common to have washing machines, but you over here are hand washing your clothing and you're trying to teach other people how to hand wash their clothing. And the moms all around are like, I don't have time for that. Like, that's a great thought. And maybe if it's some type of delicate dress or a skirt, maybe I'll hand wash that, but I'm not going to hand wash all of my kids' grubby clothing. And so I kind of look at it a little bit like that, is you're over here doing something a bit archaic, which, again, if you're hand washing your clothing, more power to you. But you're doing something that you have chosen then to do. And so with school, like AI and ChatGPT, all that kind of stuff is kind of like it's the washing machine. It's here. It's going to get better and smarter. Now, I know washing machines don't always get better and smarter. I know people have had a lot of issues with newer ones. I've got an older one, and I'm sticking with it. But regardless of what you think about that post that I kind of just broke down very, very quickly, it's here. There's a faster way of getting information. And so I used to blog, and so I'm still in some blogger groups and circles and stuff on Facebook. And I'm glad that I got out of it, because it is harder. Because if you ask a question, so here's an example. I am getting ready for the conference and I wanted to get the hotels booked and everything. So also, spoiler alert, if you're interested in the conference, we're going to be giving out some information here coming up soon. Make sure you get on that email list. And it's either in the show notes, you can just go to the website and go to conference, and the list for that specific email list is on the conference webpage. So I'm looking and I'm kind of going back and forth between a couple different ones. Now, I could have just gone in general and Googled the specific type of hotel and read through 5 to 10 different maybe websites about what is their mission? Are they kind of cheap? Are they known? What are they known for good things and bad things? But instead, please don't be upset with me here. I have to manage my time well. I've got a lot going on. If you want the conference to happen, I'm going to have to use some tools that are going to help me be able to facilitate it faster. And so there's 2 hotels I was looking at, and I just put in the 2 names and then like versus, this one versus this one. And within a couple seconds, it spit out some of the pros and the cons and some of the reviews. Now, did I let the AI make that decision for which one? No, I kind of read through it. I also read other reviews, but instead of taking however long to read 5 to 10 websites on each one, I was able to make a more informed decision. Now, I'm not betting, I wouldn't put my life on the things that come out, but it is able to then cull information from, so I'm saying before, blogging. It's hard to get people to come to your blogs if you are not well known and established, because it is pulling all the information from all of those blogs and those websites at one point. So we'll get off of the AI thing. I could do an episode about that if you want to know more about it, but the younger generation is embracing it. And therefore, I'm not saying it's not a good thing. We really should still memorize our math facts. We should know that there's 12 inches in a foot. We should know those things because it is good for us to know those things. And it would be foolish to have to look up those very basic things every single time. But let's get back to, are you smart enough to homeschool your children? I want to tell you that, Mom, or if Dad's listening to this too, you are smarter than you think. You have decided to homeschool, or you're thinking about homeschooling, and when we do homeschool, we become pretty scrappy, don't we? We are so invested, and we will learn what we need to learn in order to home educate our children. Nobody desires their success, however you define that success, more than Mom and Dad. And they will put the time, the energy, the budget, everything into it. And you are smarter than you think. You have a 5-year-old, you do not need to know trigonometry now. You might never need to know trigonometry because that child might never get to trigonometry. And if they do, you might say, you know what? I'm not interested in learning this. I'm going to find a tutor, or you're going to take an online class, or you're going to take dual enrollment and get to that. Or you have a child that is so invested in learning trigonometry that they will do it themselves. They will guide themselves through it. But let's, as we are homeschooling our kids and questioning whether we're smart enough, lean into your strengths because those are a good thing, but also grow in your weaknesses. Maybe you have a hard time staying committed and sticking with your plan and homeschooling day in and day out. Well, that could be a weakness that you are seeing, and it's not helping your kids in growing in their home education and in their, what your vision and your goals are for them. Well, then grow into that weakness. This is when we partner with the Holy Spirit, okay? Now, when your kids are young, I want to give you this suggestion. Just stay one day ahead. And sometimes you don't even need to stay one day ahead. There were many, many times that I would say slightly a day ahead, or on Sundays, I would kind of take a look and say, okay, in history, this is what we're going to cover. In science, this is what we're going to cover this week. And then maybe for math, as I would lay out the information and the books and everything for the next day and get things set up, I would say, okay, what is this one doing in math tomorrow? This one doing in math? What are they doing in language arts? So that way I would kind of know. And to be honest, in the beginning, I would read through lesson plans beforehand because I was just so nervous that I was going to get it wrong and not know things. As my confidence grew because of the time that I had put into it and seeing the success and the growth of my children's knowledge, I was like, okay, we'll just kind of skim through it. And then sometimes I would just pull out the math lesson book and I would just read the script that they had in it. And my kids would say, oh, okay, I got it. So just stay one day ahead if you can manage that, but you can even just stay 1 minute ahead. This is when they are younger. As they get older, I found that I didn't have to necessarily do that. We would learn together, and they didn't see that as a bad thing. I see it as a good thing. That means that Mom is still learning too. That takes the pressure off of children. The kids in school feel such pressure to have to know everything and all the time. But our kids say, you know what? I see Mom. She is 35, 40, 45, however old you are, and she's still learning things, and she's learning them along with me. So that means when I'm 35, 40, 45 and younger and older, that I can continue learning too. And it's not a bad thing. And if you question whether staying a day ahead is enough, I have heard from a handful of teachers, this is like firsthand information, that they would say, oh, I only stayed a day ahead. Because a lot of their plans are just given to them. They aren't writing plans. I remember my grandmother was a kindergarten teacher, and I remember her writing out all her plans and getting all of her supplies and seeing all the effort that she put into it and hearing all of her stories. But now the plans are, or it could be that you've written these plans and you just kind of carry it out every year. And so it's just staying one day ahead is what I heard that many teachers do. And I was like, wow, okay, that takes the pressure off of me, thinking that I have to have the entire year figured out. I have to know all of the math that they're going to be doing, all of the science. I have to have all that information known in my head for the entire year before I start teaching it. No, you don't. You also, though, are not teaching your kids the way that you were taught in school. Learning and gathering information is not to just be put in our head to come back out on a test and a written test, but to be absorbed and to be built upon. And therefore, the goal is not to just spit lots of facts out and memorize a lot of things that it can be written down on a worksheet, but to take this information and build upon it, but then also put it together. The subjects don't have to be so separate. And if you're struggling with this, maybe try doing some unit studies. It might help you to see how you can incorporate the different subjects together into studying one type of unit. Now, through all of this, I just want to encourage you that if this question of, I don't think I'm smart enough to homeschool my kids, I shouldn't homeschool, or I shouldn't continue, do not use that. Because I'm just going to call you out here. It is an excuse. It is what you're trying to find is a reason to not do the thing that you know that your children need, or the thing that God is calling you to do. But also, if you know that that's the best thing for your kids, maybe that is God calling you to do so. But don't use this excuse, and don't let other people saying, well, I don't know if you're smart enough to homeschool your children. I have heard from homeschool moms who have had family members say that to them, to their face, in front of their kids even. And it's just a terrible thing, but it's just is the school mindset of thinking we have to be so smart and so knowledgeable in every single area. So think of an area that you might be really good in. I'm not going to go and point out, I shouldn't go and point out, well, how come you're not good in this other area? Say you're really good at gardening. I'm not coming over to your house and saying, wow, what an amazing garden. Hey, how come you're not a CPA and doing the accounting and, filing, because it's tax time? Why aren't you filing taxes for big corporations and stuff? Why are you wasting your time in this garden? That would be silly of me to say. If you are great at gardening, keep up with the gardening. And if you need a CPA, find somebody to do your taxes. You can do them yourself too. But we don't have to be a brilliant and what our culture says is smart in every single area. Spoiler alert. I have 2, almost 3, we're getting close to 3 graduated homeschoolers, and I am not smarter than them in the areas that they excel in. And do you know what? I see that as a testament to their ability to learn, their willingness and wanting to learn. And they also have learned through this process of home education and rethinking education, looking at it differently, because I was able to help them do that and not pass on to them the way that I grew up thinking that smart had to be. But they don't look at each other and say, oh, overall, my sibling is smarter than me. They might say, you know what, this sibling knows more about this area. And you know what, I actually have a question about that, or I want to buy a car. So let me ask my sibling that knows a lot about cars, or say, can you come with me to take a look at this car? As opposed to being like, well, I'm just, because I think jealousy can kind of get into those situations and pride. But when we can help our kids reframe what does smart look like, and they can then use each other well and use each other as a resource, I think that's just is a beautiful thing. So I am not smarter than my graduated homeschoolers in the areas that they excel in. However, I do know more about things in the areas that I excel in than they do. And they'll ask me questions. And together we can be a mighty force. We can partner together in different areas. And when you get out into the world, just think. When you look at people, and you could just be at the grocery store, at the gym, at Target, you can be at church, just look around at people. In general, adults don't put everybody into the same box. And so in general, the world is not put everyone in a box, and that everybody has to know all of the same stuff and we would be robots then. If you have to know all the same stuff, you have to react the same way, you have to have the same job, dress the same way. That would be so boring. God did not create a world like that. So adults don't put everyone in a box. So you shouldn't educate your children like that. Lean into your strengths and grow in your weaknesses. Lean into their strengths. Help them to grow in their weaknesses. Get to know their gifts, their talents, and their abilities. And I promise you that you are smart enough to homeschool your children. All you have to do is you just have to homeschool them. Put one foot in front of another, do day after day after day, and before you know it, those days will add into months, into years, and you will look at graduated homeschoolers and say, you know what? I am not smarter than you. And I don't know that I really felt that I was smart enough all the time to educate you, but I provided you with that time and those resources. And look at the ways that you are just excelling. And knowing that you, as the homeschool parent, you excel in areas that they don't and that they're frankly not even interested in. And that is okay. Thank you for joining me today for this episode. If you need some encouragement in this type of thing or just practical strategy when it comes to your homeschooling, I'd love to offer you the Homeschool Mentorship Program. If you'd like more information about how you and I can meet one-on-one over Zoom over the course of a couple different times and just work through whatever concerns that you have about homeschool, I'd love to be able to meet with you and do that. You can get more information at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/mentorship. And as always, that and so many other links are in the show notes for you. Thank you for joining me for today's episode and have a wonderful day.